It is Toby here, back for another brand new video on this channel, and today we are deadlifting heavy. We are going for a heavy double or triple, maybe even a single, working on that form, trying to get heavy, and we have got new lighting in the garage. Look at this lighting, bright white LEDs, making me look really nicely well lit, not as ripped as I could be because I'm not pumped, I'm cold. This is before the start of the session. Let's get started, let's get deadlifting heavy, and let's get into the session plan. So today we are working up to a heavy 1 to 3 rep top set at about 95% of one rep max at the minute. So we're going to be working up to 220 kilograms, which I haven't been able to do for more than a double before, and I haven't been able to do for a single in a long time. So we're going to try get that up there, and then we're going to move on to some deficit deadlifts, which is an amazing way to build power off the floor. And then we're going to move on to some pen lay rows, my favorite row variation, super explosive, super heavy. We're going to do some optional exercises, some assistance stuff, some pull-ups, and that's where we're going to call it. But first things first, we need to address something. I am losing weight. I am light. For me, I am a whole 10 kilos lighter than last time I pulled 220 kilos, which I know is going to be something that we need to think about. But I believe that I am just as strong then as I was now. No, other way around. I'm just as strong now as I was then. So what we're going to do is we're going to still pull 220. We're going to try and get it for a single with good form, maybe a double, maybe even a triple. We're going to see how it feels, we're going to see how the warm-ups feel, and we're going to smash it out. So without further ado, let's jump in to some deadlifting. I am on cloud fucking 9. That is a rep PR. That is the best I've ever done with 220. My deadlift's back. I'm only 97.5 kilos. Last time I pulled 220 when I got it as my max, I was 107.5. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. You could probably tell. I missed that for a triple like a month ago. I went to get it for a triple, couldn't even get 1 rep. Ever since then, been failing PRs, and now it's back. Form fixes, And technique practice is all you need. You don't need to be fat to be strong. Oh, I got a bit hyped, as you could probably tell. I've calmed down now. It's been about 10 minutes since that. I'm going to do some back off sets now, but I've decided to scrap the rest of this video as a training video, and I want to talk to you about just how I've changed my form, just how I went about refining my deadlift to get this rep PR. I think it's going to be a really, really helpful and useful rest of the video, because if I just show my training, you guys can just see, oh, he's got stronger, but really a lot more work has gone into it. I'm not much stronger than I was when I was bigger. I've just put in a lot more work on technique, a lot more work on form, got loads of different avenues of information where I've been picking up different form tips from, and I'm just going to share some of them with you in the next part of the video in a more tutorial type format, because you guys seem to love the squat cues video, which was very similar. I worked up to my top set of a training session, then went through with you how I got to that top set, the form tips that I've changed, because this whole block of training for me has been about refining my form and updating my form. So I think it's going to be beneficial to now sit down with you guys, do a more tutorial based format of how my form on my deadlifts has improved, all the tips and tricks that I've heard, all the exercises I've done to build that. Some of them you would have seen before, but I hope you guys enjoy that rather than just a straight training video. Comment down below if you prefer these more informative type videos, and I'll definitely program them into my video schedule more. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the first form tip that I have for you guys. Okay, so the first major tip that I needed for my deadlift form is my setup was all wrong. I was setting up with my hips too high, relying a lot on my lower back and back strength to finish off the lift. And that is why I could still hit a decent amount, because my back is very, very strong. But I wasn't hitting what I used to, because I used to really set up properly, and then I got a bit power hungry and really wanted to chase a deadlift PR and completely forgot about form. So my setup has changed, and in order to practice this setup, you need weight on the bar, because you're using your body as a counterbalance. So if you see my setup in the very first rep I did of this entire session, you could see I nearly fell over backwards because I tried to apply my new setup to a weight less than my body weight. So I tried on the 70 kilo to lean back and really wedge myself against the floor and pull the slack out the bar. And all that meant is that the bar came off the floor prematurely, as you've just seen on screen now. And yeah, what you want to do is once you get to those weights that are heavier than your body weight, really lean back, wedge yourself against the bar, pull your shoulders back, pull your lats down, really tense everything. And you should hear a click in the bar, so you should hear this click. My bar doesn't click actually. Well, that's embarrassing. But you should hear a click if you've got a bit of a different barbell, but my bar really doesn't click. But you should feel all of the tension come out the bar. You should feel a click, almost a click. You should feel the plates tense up and slightly leave the ground, which obviously not all of them are going to, but you should really feel like you're wedged in there, a spring coiled, ready to go. So what I'll do is I'll film my back off set here, and I'll really focus on showing you guys me pulling myself down into the bar, and the bar having the slack pulled out of it before I then explode and blast out of the hole and just completely smash the deadlift. But what you want to remember for this, the main 5 tips you want to remember, I don't even know if it's going to be 5 seems like a good number, is pull the slack out the bar, rock yourself back onto your heels and push your hips down. Don't push them too far though. You don't want to squat the rate up. You just want to get into a position where you're tense and your hips are low. You want to pull your lats down and your shoulders back, pronounce the chest if you'd rather think of it that way. Really grip as tightly as you can onto the bar, and you should feel just this whole pressure throughout your body like a spring, coiled and ready to go, as I already said. And then once you blast off the floor, you want to blast digging your heels into the ground, because don't worry about falling over, because the weight will bring you forward. And this is only if you have a trouble like I did with the bar rocking forward and being over your toes. You want to really push with your heels, and don't worry, I know powerlifters and stuff say you want it to be your midfoot. When the weights get heavy enough, it will be your midfoot. It will do it automatically. Just think about blasting through your heels, and then you'll get the lift a lot easier. And what I noticed with the 220 is it felt super light, because all that power of me coiled up, driven through the heels, allowed the bar to get off the floor, and once it hit my knees, all of that 15-inch rack pulling work I've done was made it easy to lock out, explode through. But what you want to do, first and foremost with your setup, is you want to push your hips down, lats back, shoulders back, big belly breath, and explode off the floor. You want to feel that pressure throughout. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to film my back off sets, and you'll see it overlaid with this commentary, and you'll see what I mean. And then we'll move on to the next tip that's helped me. So where my form may not be 110% perfect now, it is certainly a lot better, and you can tell from that side on that I'm starting with my hips in a much lower position, and I'm using a lot more leg drive to get myself off the floor without my back rounding as much as it used to. My shoulders are pinned back and my head's forward. It's all good. One thing I will say is that I'm still working on, you want to keep your head tucked so your neck is parallel with your spine, so keep your neck tucked. I'm really struggling with that. I still shoot my head up and look straight forward. You don't want to do that. That is something I'm pointing out that's wrong with my form. I'm fixing it, but that's another tip I can give you guys. That's the next thing for me to work on now. My setup's a lot better, but it means that, yeah, you can explode off the floor through your heels a lot better and get a lot higher. And another way which I've been fixing my deadlift is through a few different exercises. So something I love to do is every single deadlift session, I will practice deadlifting, obviously, but on my deadlift sessions where I'm working a heavy variation, I will still do light, conventional, normal deadlifts for 8 sets of 2 or 3 reps, really focusing on how good the form is. So I'm not going to overlay any footage of this because I don't actually have any footage of this, and this isn't one of those sessions, but what I recommend you do is, if you want to deadlift twice a week, set one of them a heavy day, one of them a light form day, where you just focus on pulling yourself into that correct position with 60% of your 1 rep max and just explode off, do a couple reps, loads and loads of sets, lots of rest. Just really focus on that explosive drive. And another thing I can say, definitely with your warm-ups, every single deadlift you do, treat it as if it is your top set. So just sit it back into it, properly do the form. Don't wait till the top set to work your form out. Every single set do the exact same and with the exact same intensity. Don't pull slowly on every single set. Pull as if 250 kilo is on the bar for every single warm-up. And of course, you're going to move stupidly quickly on some of them, but that is how your body is going to learn that when we deadlift, we put 100% in. If you do half-ass warm-ups, don't expect to be able to pull 100% out your ass for the top set. It's not going to work. 100% every warm-up, every set, and you'll have no issues. So 2 more tips is practice deadlift with high sets, low reps, medium weight, getting your form perfect, at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. Basically, if I do 1 deadlift session a week, so I alternate heavy deadlifts, variation with practice. And some of the variations that we can do will be coming up next. So at the moment, I incorporate 2 different variations into my training. One of them is, again, not doing in this session. It's a heavy variation that I work when I'm not working heavy conventional pulls, and that is a 15-inch partial deadlift or a rack pull, where I take the bar up to a 15-inch starting point. So a normal deadlift starts at about 9 inches off the ground. I take it up to 15 inches, and I really put some heavy weight into that and really focus on exploding through where my usual sticking point is, which is low shins. And imagine that I've just pulled that through that sticking point and I'm blasting to lockout. So that is how I've been strengthening my upper back, my lats, my glutes, is really exploding to lockout with much heavier weights than I can do from the floor from 15 inches. That is what I do every other week. But the one I'm doing today, which I always do after my conventional deadlift heaviest set. So I do 2 back off sets where I really focus on the form. You've seen one of them. And then I move on to deficit deadlifts. So deficit deadlifts, why are they good? Why should you do them? Deficit deadlifts increase the range of motion of your deadlift. So if you struggle getting your deadlift off the floor and you find deadlifts a really difficult exercise from the start, then deficit deadlifts make them even worse. And what you want to find is you want to find a deficit that you're not comfortable with. So some people can get in a much better position when they're in a deficit. They can get their hips lower, they can get more leg drive out of it, and it feels better for them. You want to find one where it feels worse, that your hips are way too low and that you're using your quads a lot more than you'd like. You're almost squatting the weight up. That is the deficit you want to find, because that is what's going to teach you to blast off the floor. If you struggle practicing deadlifts at a deficit all the time after every single deadlift, so don't do volume on heavy deadlifts, drop it down, do a deficit and work your volume and your practice on deadlift day from a deficit, because that will teach you to pull really explosively from the floor, but in the way that you'll be pulling from further than the floor. If you think about it in a normal deadlift term, you're reducing the height of the bar from your feet. So you're pulling a lot further and you're exploding past the original start point of the bar. So when you come to actually deadlift from the floor, your body has become used to pulling for a much longer time and blasting past its start point. So it turns a conventional deadlift into your body thinking it's more of a partial deadlift, which, as we've already covered, you could do much more weight on. So I always do this after every time I do a heavy triple, a 5, a single on deadlifts. I will drop the weight down and put a deficit there and do 8 sets of 2 or 3 relatively heavy medium weight from a deficit, and then my body thinks that this is what the normal deadlift is, and then when you come to normal deadlift it feels a lot easier, if that makes sense. I've overlaid some footage of deficit deadlifting throughout this, but it is one of the principal things that has helped my deadlift become more explosive off the floor, because before, if it didn't get off the floor, I wouldn't be getting it, whereas now I'm getting off the floor most times because I'm really working that explosive pop off the floor with the deadlift with the deficits. So yeah, that is that. That is pretty much all the tips that I have for the deadlift. So let's run into a bit of a summary and then a bit of an outro as well. So I hope I wasn't too scatterbrained throughout that explanation of both of those things. I'm going to condense it now down into a quick bullet point list of all of the different cues that I employ to change my setup, and then the different exercises I've used to make my deadlift feel a lot easier than it should. So the cues that I use is, in order, you want to set your feet about shoulder width apart. You want to put the bar over your laces. You want to strap into the bar, and then this is the most important thing. You want to pull yourself down into position. Don't sit down into position. Don't squat down into position. You want to use your arms that are attached to the bar. You want to grip the bar, and you want to pull your shoulders back, lats down, hips down, and wedge yourself under the bar. You want to feel an immense pressure throughout your entire body, like a spring, ready to go off, like a pressure cooker that's got too much pressure. You want to be in that position. It's not going to be comfortable, it's not going to feel nice, but you're only in it for half a second. And then once you've got yourself into that immensely pressurized situation, you want to explode through your heels as if you're stuck at the bottom of a leg press, but your gym crush is looking. You want to explode into the floor, push the floor away from you, move the entire Earth's orbit out of orbit, and all you want to do is push. You don't want to pull. All you should be pulling is your lats down and your shoulders back, your chest up. That's all the pulling you should do. Everything else should be a push. And once you get to your knees, you want to ram your glutes through and get your hips under that bar and lock yourself out. Hold it there and repeat for as many reps as you want to do. And trust me, if you do that, you will explode your deadlift off the floor. You want to get pressurized. You want to get an immense pressure. You want to explode. You want to be a bomb. And then the exercises that you want to use to help you achieve that is, if you're struggling with the lockout and you want to build more power when you explode your glutes through and hips under the bar, you want to do some partial deadlifts. 15 inches I'd recommend. Don't go any more than that, because then you won't be doing much use. You'll just be supporting a bit of weight. You want to get anywhere between 9 and 15 inches, wherever you think you struggle, and then you'll get some good lockout practice. And then if you're struggling off the floor, you want to get yourself on a deficit. I'd say 2 to 3 inches. Anything less than that is not worth you doing. Anything more than that, depending on your flexibility, can be quite dangerous. Just find where it feels difficult, but not too difficult, and you just want to practice exploding through the original start point of the deadlift. So that is condensed down in a much better way. That is probably what you want to listen to, and if you need more explanation, go back and rewatch the longer form bits of the video. But anyway, that has been it. That has been my deadlift session. I've absolutely loved it. As you could tell, I'm on cloud 9. I have got a huge rep PR. I'm very, very happy with it, and I hope I could pass on some knowledge to you, and I hope you guys can really take away some cues and tips from what I've done. Obviously, it goes without saying, my form is not perfect. It is not 100%, otherwise I'd be pulling a lot more than I am. It's not my strength that's the issue, it's my form, but I'm getting a lot better. And I'm getting a lot better than I used to be, which is the main thing. And it's all due to these cues that I've helped pass on to you. So if you enjoyed, please let me know with a like in the video and a comment down below. If you have any more tips and cues that you think will help me improve my deadlift, please leave them down below. And if I manage to help you, let me know what PR you got, let me know what weights you're moving in the comments down below. And of course, if you made it this far and you haven't considered subscribing, I don't know what's wrong with you. Please consider it. If you subscribe, I have heard that your deadlift adds 10 kilos onto it. So I'd subscribe if I were you. Who doesn't want a 10 kilo more deadlift? So yeah, please subscribe. I will catch you in the next video. I have been Toby. Thank you for watching. See you soon.